Let's take a look at the Berserker class now for Torchlight 2. Now, this guy is a bit mentally unstable, as you can tell from his face. He looks a bit mad. Like, he looks crazy. You wouldn't want to meet this guy down a back alley or anything like that. That would be bad. So, let's have a look at the skills. The first talent tree or skill tree you get is the Hunter skills. Now, these are designed for getting right into the fight, doing AoE damage, and just doing damage with a little bit of survivability. So, your standard attack is Eviscerate. Well, the first ability you get is Eviscerate. So this is a frontal AoE which bleeds targets. So this is adding a dot to the targets that you attack. And this has a 67% charge rate penalty. Now, when you're in combat with Berserker, the Berserker gains charge by attacking enemies. Upon fully charging, the Berserker enters a sped up frenzy state where all direct attacks result in critical hits and other attacks have an increased critical chance. Charge decays after a period of inactivity. So think of your rage bar, things like your warrior for World of Warcraft. The more this guy is in combat, the more damage and the better off his abilities are going to be. He's going to do more damage and all the rest of it. He needs to be in combat. Let me look at his face. He's gagging for it. You can tell he needs it. So going back to the Hunter tree, you've got things like raises a single target damage attack. Things like, we'll go over the ultimate in a minute. Wolf Strike, again, you just lunge forward in a 6-meter dash, claws slashing and rending all foes on your path. It's very much get into the fight, do AoE damage, and dot them with ridiculous bleed effects and stuff like that. The final ability in the tree is Ravage. Now, you execute a brutal series of slashes, inflicting 3 strikes on all foes within 4 meters. Enemy armor is weakened with each strike. So this is debuffing their armor while doing a load of damage. AoE damage again. So you can see this tree is very much about AoE damage, getting in there and doing damage. There's not much survivability though in the actual abilities themselves, but the passive skill, now you are definitely going to need this. This is Blood Hunger. Each critical strike heals 5% of your maximum health. Now without this, you'll probably die quite a lot because you'll probably be critting a lot if you're a Hunter Berserker. So you're definitely going to need that. You're going to need the heal. It's going to give you sustain because the abilities, I'm afraid they don't really give you sustain. You know, Battle Rage, you enter a Berserker state. Wolf Strike, you're doing damage. Rupture, it's stun chance, knockback, physical damage, inflict damage. You can see where we're going with this. The next tree is Tundra skills. Now this is kind of a mashup between, it's kind of like their magic tree. You get electricity damage and you get cold damage. So the first ability is Frost Breath. You channel the frigid north winds to unleash a blast of icy breath, which immobilizes enemies and makes them more susceptible to damage. So this is a nuke. This is a frost-based nuke. You can also imbue your weapons with electrical effects. So Stormclaw, this allows you to inflict 40% of weapon damage as electric damage and a 50% chance to cast lightning from the target. So kind of like chain lightning appears from the targets when this is active. You can also have Storm Hatchet. Now, this inflicts 85% of weapon damage as electric damage, and movement speed is reduced by 100 meters. And also, each throw struck generates an additional 5% of the charge bar. So this is kind of like, this is going to slow targets. You're damaging the targets, but also slowing the targets, so they can't get away from you. It's, again, a form of crowd control. Northern Rage. This blasts a massive blast of Arctic wind all over the place in front of you. And, you know, this is, again, inflicting damage. It's got a chance to freeze targets. It could knock back targets and all the rest of it. So this is kind of like a tree where you can put procs on your weapons for damage, but a lot of it is crowd control based. It's like you're doing a lot of crowd control. Ice Shield, this is your magic shield, magic reflect. You've got a chance to reflect missiles back at the enemy, you know. A little bit of defense, but again, kind of more, well, it's survivability. Permafrost, now this is just a damage, but this, again, slows people and slowly saps the life, out of enemies. So, I mean, the ultimate itself, this sunders an area of the ground and 5 guys has burst forth even at the target location, blinding and damaging foes with superheated air and water. Now, this has got a 33% chance of a 70% blindness on the enemies, 3 to 4 ice damage, plus 7 knockback, and a 35% interrupt chance. The plus 3.4 and 7 will obviously change as you put points into it. The percentage may change as well, but still, for the purposes of the demonstration, you can see that this again is more interrupt, So this tree is very much based around interrupts, slowing, freezing, things like that. More of your crowd control. For your passive skills, you've got things like Cold Steel Mastery. Now this adds to physical damage and also adds to ice damage. You've got Shatter Storm, which gives you a 100% chance to immobilize targets for 3 seconds, 5% chance to freeze for 10 seconds, and -5 to ice armor. So again, more about the crowd control. And Rage Retaliation, when you are struck by a nearby enemy, your inner rage physically manifests and retaliates against that foe. Damage is equal to 120% of your weapon's DPS. So in comparison to the Hunter tree, the actual Tundra tree is more of a survivability, crowd control based tree, more on the air of crowd control, interrupts and things like that. Shadow skills, now this is dead funky. This turns you into a wolf, but this is kind of like damage, but also survivability and buffs. So you'll notice from Shadow Burst, you get healing, heals 5% of your health for up to 2 targets struck. So you dash through targets when you've got Shadow Burst active. You transform into a spectral wolf and dash through the target. So you're going to get health back from doing the damage. Wolf Shade, this is you summon a Wolf Shade ally to sink its icy fangs into your enemies and heal you. So another heal, yet again, another heal. Shadow Bind, this is a root. This binds groups of foes within a 5-meter radius of your target location. You know, that's a root, that's keeping them in place. You've got Chain Snare. This spears the enemies within 6 meters, brings them into melee range, and has a 75% chance to stun the targets. Battle Standard. Now this is quite interesting. This is an ancient standard of your tribe, imbues you and your allies with increased evasion, resistance to knockback, and increased charge gain while you're within its 9-meter influence. So again, that's nice if you're increasing people's charge gain. But this is a 25-second summon duration, so it lasts for 25. 12% dodge chance for 4 seconds, and a 70% knockback resistance. So this would be fantastic against some crazy, ridiculous boss, or some like champion monster, or something like that. The ultimate for Shadow is Wolfpack. Now this is you just unleash a pack of wolves that go around damaging people. There's nothing special about that. It just does damage. Looking at the passive, you've got Frenzy Mastery, which your feral nature grows more powerful and harder to suppress, increasing the duration of frenzy states acquired from filling the charge bar. So frenzy duration is increased to 6.5 seconds, and this is always enabled. And again, you can put more points into it because it's got 15 ranks. Shred Armor, so you can debuff more armor. Your inner savagery rips into your enemy's armor, leaving them more vulnerable with each hit, while at the same time stealing some of their armor for yourself. So you're actually taking the armor off the enemy, but making the target more vulnerable to attacks, physical attacks, which is, again, in line with the rest of the tree. And Red Wolf, whenever you inflict a critical hit, up to 2 neighbouring enemies may be savaged by a manifestation of your bloodlust. So pretty funky trees. I mean, so just to give a quick recap, Hunter, you go in there and you do damage. Critical strikes and things like that. Tundra skills, this is like your magic tree. You've got a lot of crowd control capability, but you're also still doing damage. Shadow skills, you've got way more survivability, you've got group buffs, and you're doing a bit of AoE damage. So let's take the Hunter skills, for example, and let's look at the character panel. So looking at this now, what the hell would we spend our points on? Well, we're going to want dexterity because we want the critical strike, and we're going to want strength. So I would suggest everything into strength, everything into crit. More so dexterity because you need the crit chance, because the crit chance is going to proc blood hunger, which is going to heal you, and that's going to keep you in the fight. The longer you stay up, the more damage you're going to do. So let's say we want to be Tundra. Well, if we're going for a Tundra Berserker, we're obviously going to need things like focus because we need mana. Maybe a bit of vitality, but focus will definitely be your skill. And you probably drop bits, points in strength and dexterity as well, maybe. But again, you can see how it changes, and you need to build your skill points depending on what kind of skill tree you are going down. Hopefully, guys, that gives you a good overview of the Berserker class. And this is a funky class, and he also looks crazy. And the female models look absolutely mental. And that is my British Bulldog, good lord. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Toodaloo.